Welcome back everyone, Mike McConville here one more time, Stratford, Ontario, Canada. For String Tech Workstations we have another Les Paul here, Les Paul Standard, and it'll be getting a compensated, not a fret dress. What's happened here is these bridge saddles were filed out, so the radius of the strings no longer matches the radius of the fingerboard. So we're going to swap this out and we're going to put a new bridge on. The same type of bridge that we put on that Gibson ES 345 that we just did. And this new bridge will give us even more travel. I haven't even bothered to check the intonation, and I'm not going to because we know we're swapping out the bridge. So let's start there. Well, as it turns out, this is pretty sloppy. We need to tighten that up anyway. So it's a good thing this bridge is coming off. There's way too much play in this bridge. Even though we're not using this bridge, it's still tape off those saddles because they'll fall out and disappear into Never Never Land. We'll throw that in the case and let's get our new bridge. Okay, how about these? Yeah, they're a little schlocky too. That should do it. So we have a little bit of a different approach for the treble side tailpiece post. Oftentimes this post will be the ground wire for the bridge. It depends on the manufacturer and the guitar, it'll change. So I've bottomed that out. Sometimes you got to kind of futz a little bit with the depth of that insert so that you have enough room to put that tailpiece where you want. Okay, so that insert is too long the way it is right now. We're going to have to take it down a little bit more. So we've taken that down so the post ends up being where it should be. Okay, we'll try that. Okay, I can live with that. So now this is rock solid and this is rock solid. No more slop. Now we could put our bridge on. I think we've got a little bit of play in there too. So we're going to show a little trick to tighten that up. Okay, we've got a little piece of heat shrink on there. And same deal on that side. Let's see how that measures up. That will do it. So now we're ready to put some strings on and see where the intonation lies on this bridge. It's an aluminum tailpiece too, interesting. Just like the original 50s. Now I know it may sound like I'm contradicting myself here, but I'm not. At the very beginning of this video I said filing these saddles is a big no-no, and it is. I'm keeping a very careful eye on the bottom of that slot. I'm opening up the pre-existing notch here with a 46 thou file, but I am not deepening it. Take a good close look at that. What we're after here is we want to get the natural diameter of the string to sit in that pocket. And the reason you go to that treble, this gives you a good, solid, fundamental note. So I'm checking this for the location of that saddle. Okay, that's a little flat, so that needs to come forward. In the original bridge, if you remember earlier in the video, that low E was right at the back of the casting, so I don't know why he thought that was in tune. Anyway, making that adjustment now. So this actually needs to come forward. Okay, I'm happy with that. We'll go to the A string. Now typically it's just the 3 bass strings that need to be opened up. So that was our 46, we're going to get a 36 now. So here's our 36 again. I'm just widening it, I'm not deepening it. It's a 36 thou file for a 36 thou string. Well, it's quite a bit flat too. Yeah, that's going to come way forward. Try that. Still flat. That's looking good. Well, you know something, I know by the orientation of the 6th and 5th string that D will definitely need to come forward. So this, of course, is a 26 thou, and I'm not deepening this, just opening it up for that string diameter. We'll start by bringing that saddle as far forward as it goes, and then we'll check it. So let's check that. This is one of those instances where I will move this forward ever so slightly. We'll try that. Whew, man, that's got it. So we just squeaked by with that one. Let's check that G. And that too is a tiny bit flat, and we've got lots of room here to move forward. That's got it. So there's one saddle out of 6 that's perfectly in tune. I don't have to touch that one. Go to the top string. Okay, that is ever so slightly sharp, and this is a good thing. So there's plenty of travel in this bridge. We're good. Okay, I can bring that pickup height back up now. I dropped that pickup down so that while I was adjusting the saddles, I didn't scratch the mint condition chrome pickup cover. So for myself, when I check the height of the pickup to the string, I kind of fret the highest fret on the guitar, which is as close as the pickup is ever going to get. And then I adjust the pickup accordingly. Now people ask, well, you know, how far is it? What's the math? And generally, you know, it's about 1/8 of an inch. You can bring it in a little bit closer than 1/8 of an inch, but you don't want to bring it in too close because those magnets will actually pull the string out of tune. The neck pickup I didn't touch, but we will likely be removing that and the pick guard when we go to level the frets. How much of that buzzing can be attributed to the bridge being filed out incorrectly, it's hard to say. I'm just prepared for the fact that we probably will do a little bit of a fret level, but for now we'll turn our attention to the nut. Get that truss rod cover out of the way. We will get rid of these strings now because we'll put a new set on. Dan had actually left a 3-pack of the strings that he's using. He'd mentioned when he was here, he knows, you know, I'll go through at least 2 sets of strings during the whole sort of calibration of the compensated nut and the guitar. This is exactly why I don't put the strings on like that, because it just makes it more of a chore to get them off. And if you mess with it too much to get them off, you either poke your fingers or scratch the headstock. So here we go. And just strike while the lacquer's hot. You don't have to go to this trouble on an Epiphone, but on the real deal Gibsons, that lacquer pools right up against the nut. And that has to be scored before you make any attempt at removing. Both of these Les Pauls I'm working on right now are pretty well mint condition. So you want to make sure you cover your tracks. This side you can see where that red turns to a pink because the lacquer is translucent, and you can see how far the nut goes below the actual paint line. And that's another reason why you gotta see that little flap. That's why you score it. Yeah, that's cooled a little bit. I'm going to heat that up a little bit further. Let's try that. And that is how clean it should look when you take a Les Paul nut out. Okay, here we just breeze across that. Just leveling that flap of lacquer flush with the floor of the ledge. This side, same thing. Okay, this is our first stage, our press fit blank. You got to understand that we're restoring the structural integrity of the headstock when we get that good press fit. No apparent looseness and no apparent tightness. This is the next stage. Now we're back to the radius sander again. I cut that ledge to match the fingerboard radius on the edge of the radius sander. This is the drill press conversion kit that I've been sending out to you guys. Two things we're doing at this stage. I'm rolling that radius along the length of the nut, and then I'm rolling the back of the nut to get that taper. This is the original nut. Now, from what I understand, Dan was saying the strings weren't exactly even because the nut had been refiled, but I keep my eye on this as I make my way across. Oh yeah, okay, I can see that it is not even. I have a couple other Les Paul nuts in my junk box there that I can use to verify this, which I will do before I start to file. Okay, over to the knuckle vise. For those of you who are new to this type of work, filing out the nut on a Les Paul headstock, you know, there's no shame in putting a little cover on like this. I can see that the last guy that was filing out that nut that I just took out, you know, he kind of scored the headstock. Very easily done. So you take a minute and put a little piece of bristle board. You can just tape that on there. It's kind of, you know, training wheels really for the guys that are doing this for the first time. I've even put a tongue depressor, tape that across there, and that allows the nut file to sort of clear the headstock as well. I know you see me in hundreds of videos filing out, you know, the nut without any precautions, but you know, I have done this a few thousand times. Anyway, there's, like I said, there's no shame in making up a little template like that, just bristle board. you know, the first few times you try this, just so that you don't end up scoring the headstock like this. Okay, here we go. We'll get this started. I got a 26 thou here. I'm just gonna score. That's 50 now on the other side. These are 10 to 46 strings. So that's 46. This will be 36. And again, I'm just getting them started. I'm gonna check the spacing as I go. And this will actually be a 26, that D, 46, 36, 26. I'll use the 26 for that as well. Like I said, at this point we're just scoring before we actually put the nut on the guitar to verify that the string spacing is good all the way across. Okay. Back to the guitar. Just a little side note here. I'm still struggling to get that little... This is exactly why I don't do that. Feeding the string through twice, doubling it over, tying knots and bows, completely unnecessary. The reason the post is an hourglass shape, when you put the winds on perfectly neatly like this, as the string tightens, those winds compress like a compression spring and tighten upon themselves. Now, I'm being very careful with this. I got a dental pick because I don't want to scratch the headstock, which so often happens as you struggle to get these things off. Unbelievable. And I know that this is very common, and a lot of people will probably argue the point, but I honestly see no use or advantage, only disadvantages. There we go, finally. Time wasted unnecessarily. Very simple formula. It's worked for the last half century for me. I wind over top of the tail. As the string wraps around the post, you wind down towards the face of the headstock. If you wind the string from the bottom up, well, you're just putting more tension on the gears of the tuners, but more importantly, with a Les Paul especially, you're increasing the risk of the headstock breaking as you wind from the face down to the top of the post. Wind from the top down, I go once over the tail and then wind down towards the face. Feed that tip through, maintain tension on the string, and wind down towards the face of the headstock. So I let the string kind of slip off the end of my thumb. A couple of videos back, I think I was showing this, where I maintain that string tension so the string doesn't slip off the post. So for all of you who have joined the Patreon Tier 3 group, when you're going through the motions, because there's a lot of motions to go through to make these compensated nuts precisely and consistently, if you blow one, you get really close right to the end and then you cut the last string too deep and it's buzzing on the first fret, don't throw it out. That is your pattern. That's exactly what I did about a year and a half ago. Drill a hole through it, hang it up on a nail. So this is 24 5/8 Gibson Les Paul 10 to 46. So I'm not going to waste any time mapping that out. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is you don't have to go groping in the dark over this. I am just kind of eyeballing this initially, and this is going to get me where I want to go a lot quicker. And I've done this a few thousand times. So anyways, that's just a tip, you know, for you guys that are buying your compensated nut blanks at 20 packs, and you know, you're going to go through those 20 packs. There's a reason I sell 20 packs of compensated nuts. Okay, this will get us started. Okay, you can see I've left plenty of height here because we're still kind of working out the string spacing. But I went ahead and kind of roughed in according to my model nut that I saved from, I don't know, a year ago or something. I'm going to start with this string and bring it down so it's within a reasonable distance of the final height. So once again, no shame in having a little protective guard for the headstock. I know you don't see me do it, but I think for you guys that are doing this for the first time, I think it's a good idea. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone across all 6 strings and just sort of triple checked the space between the outside diameter of one string to the outside diameter of its adjacent string, and made sure that that space was the same all the way across. Now, as you can see, these strings are way higher than they're going to end up being, but before I go any further, I just wanted to make sure we had the spacing right. That part of the job is done. Now what I'm doing is I'm checking the fretted 12th fret note against these approximated values that I kind of took off a former Gibson compensated nut, 10 to 46. So I'm going to check those. I'm going to bring you into the tuner just so you get a sense of how close we got by using our model nut to get started. I've already set up the bridge, 7th fret corresponding octave, adjusted the bridge accordingly. I did need to take out that little spring clip on the D string, rotate that saddle 180 to get this to come forward far enough. So the bridge is done. Now we're checking those initial values that we took off our compensated nut model. We'll start with the 6th string and make our way across. That one's pretty close. Okay, there's our A. That's pretty close too. Here's our 3rd string. A little tiny bit sharp, but we can go back from there. There's our 2nd string. And there's our high E. It's looking pretty good all the way across. Let me bring you back into the nut, explain where we are, where we've come from, and the next step we take. Well, the next 2 steps that we take are to take down the crown, because those slots are too deep. I did notice that the 3rd string was binding a little bit. So we're going to take that down, we're going to roll over this edge, we're going to cut this side back flush with the edge of the fingerboard. This one, boy, this one, we just made it. Whew. I might even knock that over a little tiny bit to get these strings to center. Yeah, so I just tapped that with a dead blow hammer just to nudge it over a little bit so that we got these strings equidistant from the edge of the fingerboard. We are ready to trim this back to its final width and soften the top of that nut and even roll that leading edge a little bit. This is all done on that radius disc sander conversion kit for the drill press. So let's head back to the drill press. Okay, we're almost done. There's our open string, 7th fret. That's a Harley rumbling by on the street. Now, of course, when I fret that 1st fret, it's sharp. So the last thing we're going to do is touch up that fret slot so the open string and the fretted first fret note are in tune. Let's bring that down. And fretted. Okay, A string. Sharp, that doesn't need much. D string. That's got to come down quite a bit. We're talking about the height of the nut slot. That's what we're bringing down right now. So I like to elevate that slots to kind of chest level so I can get an aerial view as I file it. Okay, let's try that. Fret. Live with that. Our third. Oh, that's still way sharp. I've got a 16th thou Osco here, which is not quite large enough. We need this 17th thou file to finish it off. Let's try that. Also has to come down. Just about there. Yeah, so I keep that headstock in the center of my chest, and then my whole body weight supplies the inertia against the push of the file. Well, here's the wrap up. There's our new bridge. I did end up flipping that D-string saddle, popping out that spring clip, rotating it 180 and putting it back in. Intonation lines up beautifully. You're going to hear it in a second. This is our finished compensated nut, 10 to 46, concert pitch. You can see that that tail piece is raised up just ever so slightly. Now what I like to see at the bridge is this clearance on the back of the casting. And on both sides there's a little bit of space, so the strings are not deflecting off the back of the casting in the bridge. In a few cases, the only way to get around that is do a wraparound. In other words, feed the strings in this side, have them up and over. That's another way to clear the casting when the next set is a little bit too far back. But this worked out beautifully. No need to do any type of wraparound. As you saw, we had that hex-headed fastener in there so that the post actually tightens against that fastener that we dropped in. So this end of the guitar, everything is rock solid. The posts in the body, the fit of the new replacement bridge onto those posts, and then both studs and the stop tail piece. All that schlock and the machining is gone. The whole thing's rock solid.